Hey, and welcome to the Property Legacy Education Q&A. Now, I just need to change a couple of things on here, just background effects. Hey, and welcome to the Property Legacy Education Q&A. Now, I just need to change a couple of things on here, just background effects. There we go. Right. So, how is everybody today? Have we got anybody with lots of questions? Uh, what are people wanting to know? Today we have quite a few questions already set up, which is unusual for me because normally we we wait for people to come on and ask the questions, but we've got some prepared early. So this question came in: what's the best age to invest in property? Well, like everything, the younger you are, the more length of time you've got to invest. So you can build that portfolio up over a long period of time. And this will help you progress and make your property portfolio bigger and bigger and bigger the longer you're doing property. So it's always a good idea to be doing that on a regular basis from whenever you can start. And the earlier you start, the better. There's no two ways about that. I started quite late on. I started in 2019. I was what, 48, 49, something like that at the time. I'm 54 now. So it doesn't take long to get to the point where you can be financially be free and free to do your own thing, your passion. But the younger you start, the better chance you've got to build up a bigger portfolio that will then look after you as you get older and look after your children later. So, anybody waiting to come in? Can't see anybody. I'm just going to put a message on Facebook that we are live. We are live. Join me. Let's get the link on there so people can join in. Always best. Yeah. So, posted that. So, hopefully, people start to come in a little while. Hope you're enjoying some of the stuff we talk about. Obviously, it can get a little boring if it's just me on my own. So it's always nice if it's other people that come along to help out and to ask questions and to talk about property investing or talk about anything about property. It's always helpful. And somebody will be umming and ahhing about asking a question. If you ask the question, doesn't matter if it's a daft question or not. We can talk about it. Okay, let's see what else we got. Is it better to save money or to buy property? Well, obviously, if you save money in a bank account, you will get a certain amount of interest. Um, in any savings account, you can get from what 2% up to 5%, depending on where you put your money. But all these are quite low compared to what you can make in the same period of time. So, say you put £1,000, no, say you put £20,000 into a savings account and you were getting 5%. So, over time, you get 5% every year. And just trying to do the maths in my head, which wasn't working. So 20,000 times 5% is £1,000 per year. So you'd end up with 25 grand after 5 years, which is okay, safe, sound, secure. But if you did it in property and you put £20,000 down as a deposit to a house, then over time, the average increase is usually about 5% per year of capital growth. So again, you get your 1%, £1,000 extra a year. Because you value your property. So if you put your 20,000 down on a property, you'd then be buying a house for about 80,000, 90,000, something like that. If you put 25% down, and you'd be buying a sizable property, quite cheap in some areas, but it's doable. Um, so over in time, that £80,000 property would increase by same 5% plus percent, which would mean that you would have 4,000 extra per annum. So 84,000 times 5, which is 20 grand. So you'd actually have an extra 20 grand as equity. So you basically doubled your £20,000 deposit. Now, on top of that, you would also be able to rent out the property for £800 a month. So 800 times 12. So you get 9,600 a year times 5 years. So that's 48,000. So you put your 20,000 in, you stand to make 68,000 over a 5 year period. That's not bad, is it? Compared to your 5,000 by just putting it in your bank account and leaving it. Um, doesn't matter a bit about tax or everything. These gross numbers just show that putting your money into property will increase in value. Okay, of course, sometimes it goes higher than 5%, sometimes it's lower. Um, but over time, you would get to the point where you would um, have lots of value built up in equity and cash flow. So from an investment point of view, leaving it in a bank isn't really going to do much for you. Investing it wisely, obviously there are risks, so you need to make sure you know what you're doing. But whether you put it into stocks or property or anything, as long as you invest it wisely and look for secure investments, then you can actually make a lot more money in 5 years compared to put it into a bank account. So let's just see if anybody's on Facebook. Anybody out there? I thought Samuel would be joining us at some point. I shall have to give him a nudge. So, um, nobody coming on yet joining me. So we'll see who else who will come along. It might be very, very quick meeting if nobody turns up. But okay, number three, sorry. Uh, should I invest in property in 2024? Well, it's too late for 2024. You should invest in property in 2025. Yep, definitely. 2025 looks like it's going to be the year that market recovers or start to recover. So now is the time to buy. Um, Now is the time to build a portfolio. Once the market recovers, you'll gain on capital gains. So you will make money just by buying now and waiting until the market recovers, which is good. Anybody on the phone? Yeah. So yeah, 2025 is definitely a good time to buy. And then next question is, what percentage should I invest in property? Well, there are minimums you have to invest. Um, Obviously, we we can talk about whose money you invest with, or whether, but if it's your own, uh, for a buy-to-let investment property, you would need to put in at least 25%. Um, so if it's £100,000 house, you'd have to put £25,000 in, and then the mortgage company would be able to put the rest in with a loan to value rate of 75%. If you're buying uh, your own home, just a normal residential property for yourself to live in, then you can go as low as 5%. So you then only need to put £5,000 in for £100,000 house. Um, Obviously, there are scenarios at times where there are mortgages for 100%, and there are deals where if it's a brand new house, you can get the company who's you're buying off can sometimes give you the deposit as a vendor gift. So sometimes you don't need a deposit. If you invest in property using other people's money, then yeah, you don't need a deposit, but you'd need somebody to give you the money for that. Okay. Uh, what is the best age? Is property better than stocks? So I get it. So is property better than stocks and stock market? I get this on a regular basis. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. I think majority of the time, um, people invest in stocks get 12% returns, sometimes higher, sometimes less. But on average, 12 to 15. I think gold is about 15% on average increase. Um, but you can get that with property. As we were saying before, over a 5 year period, it could increase. You could double your deposit, double the amount you put in, plus cash flow means that you stand to gain a lot more. Quite often, our properties are running at 25 to 35% ROI. So you just need to see where you go with that. Um, what we tend to do is refinance property to get our money back out. So then our ROIs go through the roof. Because if you've got no money in the property, you get infinite return on your investment because you've got no investment in there. You're just getting money for nothing, for free money. So, uh, in my opinion, and there's going to be a lot of people out there that disagree with my opinion, but stocks are quite volatile. Property is less volatile, but you've got physically got something to hold on to or live in or um, actually own, whereas stocks is it's just a bit of paper. It's something on a computer, a bit like crypto. Does it actually exist? But at the end of the day, if you buy a house, you've got a house, and then you can rent it out and earn money off it, and that's a real asset. So, in my mind, property is better than stock. How to start investing? Well, that's a good question. So, we'll have to look at it from a few different angles. But how do you start in property? Well, first of all, you need to work out what education you need. If you don't have an education and you just try and invest in property because it's dead easy, all you do is buy a property, put some money down as a deposit, and buy it with a mortgage and just let it out. But when you actually start doing this, and you get educated, you understand that there's over 150 um, regulations that you have to comply by before you let a property out. There are certificates you need. There are test certificates for your electrics, your gas. There's stuff you have to do with government to make sure that you're allowed the people who want to rent actually allowed to rent in the UK. So you have to do the right to rent. You have to do many, many, many different things. You have to make sure that the house is up to regulations. You have to make sure that the mortgage is done right. So if you buy a residential mortgage, you're not allowed to rent it out unless it's a buy-to-let mortgage. So there are lots of things that can get in the way and make it difficult. If you don't provide all the information to the tenant at the start of the tenancy, then you want to evict at any point, then you will struggle because you've not given them all the information at the start. So there's a long list of things to do. Um, you take a deposit, you then have to make sure you put it into a government scheme within 30 days of receiving the deposit. And then once all that's set up and they've got certificate, you then have to give them the prescribed information and make sure that gets signed and make sure that gets logged. Because all of these things will stop you from getting your property back if you had to go to the court. So, yes, how to start investing, get a good education. First and foremost, education will stand you in good stead. And then build a team of people around you that can help advise and help you move forwards. So you need a solicitor, you need an accountant, you possibly will need an architect at some point. You maybe need a broker for mortgages, a broker for, well, an estate agent, a letting agent, unless you're going to let it yourself. But if you do that, you're going to have to understand all the regulations and everything else that comes along with that. So we need to make sure that you've education, first and foremost, is there. Okay. So at the end of the day, yes, you can start very easily, but you need to get some education behind you first. Can you buy shares in property? Yes, there are ways of buying shares in property. Effectively, you put it in, you invest into a fund, and then they will help you. Well, they'll invest the money, and you generate interest and dividends from that. Is property development profitable? That depends how good you are. If you're struggling to get to do the maths and make sure that everybody gets paid and you spend too much on renovations, then no, it might not be. If you set up property in your own name and rent it out, you're not going to be as profitable as if you set it up in a limited company. So all these things would be factors to stop you from making profit. For instance, if you went to do a flip, you did a lovely renovation, but at the end the market had dropped, then no, you wouldn't make a profit, you'd lose. So it is risky. So you need to make sure you know what you're doing, get your education, and go step by step. How to start property developing? Well, it's just the same as property. How to start investing. What skills you need to be a property investor? Well, the one skill I don't have is patience. That is a big skill that you do need. Um, and it'd be good if I did have that skill, but I don't. So it takes time, and I struggle with that. But you need to understand the finances, understand the figures, and over time you can factor that in and work out to be a good property investor. You need to analyze deals, find deals, talk to people, network with people. So these are all skills that come along being because effectively setting up a business and being an entrepreneur. So you need to have all these people skills, all these management skills, and a will to learn because you're always learning. Uh, can I invest in property with no money? Well, you do need money. You can't invest with completely without money, but it doesn't have to be your money. So when I say yes, you don't need money, You can invest with other people's money, which is fine. Um, but it's something that you need to learn about first. Because if you don't know what you're doing and you're playing with other people's money and you lose it, then you could come unstuck and get into trouble. If you mismanage other people's money, then that can be treated as fraud. But yeah, you can get into property with no money. There are strategies like purchase lease options and rent to rent, where effectively you rent a property and then rent it out for more. Um, you can do that and not have any money. You just have to guarantee that you can pay the rent to the person you're renting it off if you have voids or if nobody's renting off you. The purchase lease option side gives you the option to buy the property within a period of time, but you're still renting the property for that period of time. So in effect, you taking over a property from as little as £1. So you still need £1, but I'm pretty sure most people can find £1 to take over a property and make money on it. But yeah, you can invest in property without buying the property, which means then you can make money on somebody else's property. You just have to guarantee the rent coming in, but it's doable, and there's people around the country doing it every day, day in, day out, making money without owning property. So yes, you can invest without uh, without any money. First property I bought was cost me £800 in 2019. So the property itself was 109,000. Um, but because I got a deposit from an investor and then got a mortgage for the rest, I only had to pay for the legal fees, and that's why it's £800. Um, we've taken on 3 properties through purchase lease options in the last 5 years. So for each of those, I just paid £1 each. And the vendors are very happy. They got the asking price they wanted, and they got rent on top of that. And we managed to get the properties rented out, manage them properly, and are now back up and running when they did have issues when we took them on. So what type of property is best for investment? Well, any property is best for investment as long as it's not the one you live in. Because if you live in your property, it's going to cost you money to be in there. So you make money from a property that you own, then that's an investment and it's an asset. But if you pay money to live in your own home, like it's your house, and you've got mortgages, you got council tax, got gas, electric, and all that kind of stuff to pay for, then that's a liability, and you don't make money on that. You lose money. So, uh, best for investment are houses and flats, not very big ones, usually in the lower end of the market, uh, where the prices are cheaper, but the rents are still very comparable. Um, those are kind of the properties to look for. Bigger houses and in nicer areas, you spend a lot more to buy the properties in the first place, but at the end, you might get a little bit more rent, but not much more rent. So it's always better to go for the lower end of the market, and be part of the kind of movement to make sure that property is in your area. Uh, the quality is improving every time you do a property. You do it up nicely. People will look after your properties better. Um, Allow them to have the opportunity to buy your property at some point means that people will